Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. Welcome to Douglas Now Live. I'm Robert Preston Jr. on a late night edition of Douglas Now Live from our studios here on West Walker Street. A couple of things I want to talk about here tonight. I want to get to a little bit of news, and then I know not everybody likes sports. All right. I get that. But right now, we're in probably the busiest sports time of the year. We've got basketball and baseball overlapping. We've got some really good and some really neat things happening with Coffee High Baseball. South Georgia State College baseball is underway. South Georgia State College softball is getting started as well. And you also have Coffee High basketball, South Georgia State College basketball, and CCA basketball, and they're kind of overlapping here. So there's a lot of sports to talk about, and we are going to talk about sports. The next couple of weeks are going to be crazy. They really are. So, again, if you don't like sports, we're going to do the best we can to try to, consolidate and make it as concise as possible. But still, there's going to be a lot of sports talk over the next couple of weeks. And again, I enjoy it. All right. Track season. We're going to talk about a track story here tonight. And I know the audience is a little bit limited here for some of this stuff. But man, and I've told y'all this, the thing I like about sports is it's, for the most part, it's talking about successes. It's talking about positive things. It's talking about good things. It's talking about what our kids are doing and how they are excelling. All right. And these kids work hard. It doesn't matter whether you're at CCA, Coffee High School, First Academy, South Georgia State College, anywhere in between. All right. And this, we're not even taking into account the college athletes that we have that we need to keep tabs on. We got some baseball players who are doing really well. Brady Skipper is wrapping up his career up at the University of North Georgia. He's had a phenomenal baseball career, doing well this season. You got a couple of other players out there who are getting started on their college careers. So we're going to try to check in with all these folks, right? But it's successes, it's positive stories, it's kids who are working hard, kids who are making sacrifices and going through all those things that they go through to be successful. And they're learning a lot of important lessons along the way. So there's some neat stuff happening, and we're bear with us. And if you're not a huge sports fan, look at the positives in this, okay? Because there's so much negative out there. More negative than there needs to be. And the one thing about sports, particularly at the local level, is you don't have to care about all the trash that goes on in college, the mess a lot of times that's professional sports, and all the politics that get brought into it and all that crazy mess. High school's a little bit different, all right? It's really where there's a true love for the game. And it's about the purest form of sport that there is. You're representing your community. It's your community against the neighboring community. Sometimes, as we're going to see here in a few minutes, your state against the next state over. So there are a lot of bragging rights on the line. And it seems to be, at least for the moment, that may change if the Georgia General Assembly has its way about things. At the moment, it's the money hasn't corrupted it as badly as it has at other levels. So I say all that to say, a lot of talk about sports coming up. It's good stuff. It's good stories. And we're going to do our best. We can't cover everything. I know we're going to miss some stuff. All right. And let me tell you this. I was having a conversation with somebody last night about this. And when we try to cover sports, when we try to get out and do the things that we do, it gives me an appreciation for what Walter Jardine did for over 40 years, maybe even 50 years. All right. Walter covered every school, every sport, recreation, middle school, high school, college, professional. It didn't matter. Walter did it. He got paid a little bit, There were times he didn't get paid, but he didn't get paid to do all that he did. He didn't do it for the money, right? I tell people, you don't do this work for the money, right? Because whether you're taking pictures at a middle school basketball game, or whether you're going to a city commission meeting or a county commission meeting, or going out at 2:00 in the morning because there's a fire or a wreck or something, you don't do that for the money, because there's not a lot of money in it. And the people I know who do this line of work either work multiple jobs or they live below the poverty line. And that's one of the challenges that we have. You don't have a lot of people wanting to get into journalism, particularly small town journalism, because it just doesn't pay. And I think about the work that Walter Jardine did all those years, the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pictures that he took. I know he traveled over 1 million miles going to games. And it didn't matter if it was football, basketball, track, he was there. And it really does. We had, I say we as a community, had a tremendous resource in Walter Jardine for 5 decades. And Walter's health will not allow him to do the things that he used to do. Right? And we all know that our age and our health will eventually catch up with all of us. But I had sort of an academic appreciation of what he did, but and I'm not trying to fill Walter's shoes, because nobody can do that. Nobody will ever do that. There was one Walter Jardine. There will only be one Walter Jardine. Nobody's going to do that again. All right. But the work that he did, and he did it for the kids. Generations of kids went to the newspaper. Some of them, the only time they ever opened the newspaper was to look for their pictures or to look for their game write-ups, because there were times that Walter wrote game stories as well. So it's phenomenal what he did. And, we try to cover sports and try to do the best we can, but I don't come close to doing what he did. And I'm not nearly the photographer that he is. I apologize for the pictures that I take. Most of them are terrible. All right. I have some equipment limitations. We're going to try to fix that over the next few months. We've got to upgrade. But remember, I was telling you, don't get paid a lot for it. And, going out and buying a, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 camera, not going to earn me any more money, but I got to have it in order to take better pictures. So anyway, it's and I was thinking about that last night. I mean, a lot of times by the time you realize it, it's too late. But we as a community owe Walter Jardine an enormous debt of gratitude for what he did. And he did it selflessly, and he did it because he enjoyed being around sports. He enjoyed the kids. He enjoyed the scene. He enjoyed the access, right? Because he had access to the University of Georgia. He had access to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There were other professional teams and college teams that he visited and he went to, and it's and it is a lot of fun. But I will tell you this. I've had people ask me, hey, can you get me a sideline pass? And I said, listen, I get you sideline pass, but you got to work. All right. And it is, in fact, work. Being on the sidelines of a football game, at the photographer's pit, at a Major League Baseball game or something like that, you get some access. But if you do it right, it's work. And it's not pleasant there necessarily. Then the real work begins when you go through the pictures and you have to pull those out, and it's not as glamorous as it looks. It's not a bad gig. It's not a bad gig at all, but it's not nearly as glamorous as it looks. And Walter Jardine did it for years and years and years for little to no pay. And again, I don't know that he will see this, but if he does, anyone who knows him sees this, and I will see him in the next few days, because he and my dad are at the same place. So I see Walter a couple times a week, but I'm going to tell him. I'm going to tell him when I see him again. We appreciate what he did. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, speaking of negative stories, not the kind of story you want, if you're involved here. But deputies made an arrest on a 34-year-old male on illegal drug charges following a chase on February 10th, 2026. Law enforcement officers conducted an investigation into suspected illegal drug activity in the area of North Madison Avenue. During the operation, officers identified a vehicle believed to be operated by Michael Lamar Weldon, 34, of Douglas, and they attempted to conduct a traffic stop. After initially stopping, Weldon allegedly fled at a high rate of speed, resulting in a brief pursuit that was safely terminated by deputies. I love that wording, safely terminated by deputies. Weldon was arrested without further incident. As a result of the investigation, deputies seized suspected methamphetamine, cocaine, marijuana, and other suspected illegal substances. They also recovered a handgun in the course of the investigation. Mr. Weldon received multiple felony charges for the drug offenses, including possession of a controlled substance, possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute, as well as felony fleeing and attempting to elude law enforcement officers. There was also a probation violation in there. And, of course, numerous traffic violations. He was transported to the Coffee County Jail, where he remains. We have a photograph. Well, Mr. Weldon does not look very happy. I would not be happy either. Not at all. And I don't laugh because it's funny, but yeah, there are not very many times that chases actually work. A lot of people try to flee, and I guess maybe people are thinking, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? You know, I mean, I'm probably going to jail anyway. Maybe I get lucky and get away. Well, you might, but you're eventually going to get caught. All right, because they got your tag number, they got your description, they got all of that. You're eventually going to get caught. Plus, you put so many people at risk. And if you have a fatal accident, which happens during a chase, then you have those extra charges on top of that. It's just not worth it. Of course, it'd be better if people did not engage in illegal activities, allegedly, of course, in the first place. But we know that some people will choose that, and they will get in trouble, they will attempt to flee, and they will open themselves up to many, many more charges. But yeah, that happened a couple of days ago. Mr. Weldon is in jail. Let's talk about a little bit of sports, as I promised. Now, there's a lot going on. We got a picture here of Inslee Crawford. We're going to get to her in just a minute. But one of the things I want to do a quick baseball wrap up because we have some interesting things happening here with baseball, Coffee High baseball in Douglas over the next couple of days. First of all, last night the Trojans played the Camden County Wildcats for the second time in roughly a week. Last week they played Camden and Douglas, and they beat Camden by 8, 15-7 was that score, I do believe. Last night the Trojans won by 8 again, winning 10-2. Eli Wood led the team offensively with a 2 RBI, 3-run performance. He also had 3 doubles and a triple. He had 3 doubles and a triple. And then Hunter Klesko, who has been injured his first couple of games, he made it into the lineup, and he had 3 hits and 2 RBIs. 3 runs and 2 RBIs. And Carter McMillan started the game and had a solid 4 innings. So, yeah, Coffee didn't score in the first inning. That would be the only inning in which they did not score. They scored 2 in the second, 3rd, 4th, and 6th, and they added 1 run each in the 5th and the 7th. Camden only managed to score 2 in the 4th. Wood was 4 for 5 with 3 doubles, a triple, and 2 RBIs and a run. 4 other Trojans had 2 hit games: Ben Fussell, Barrett Harrell, Taven Harden, and Hunter Klesko. McMillan and reliever Evan Lingenfelter combined for a 3-hitter, and they tallied 10 strikeouts, 7 from McMillan, 3 from Lingenfelter. Now, the Trojans are back in action tomorrow, and this is what I want to talk about. This is pretty cool, all right? If you are a high school baseball fan, you will have plenty of opportunities to watch some really good baseball over the next couple of days. The first ever Georgia-Florida Invitational Tournament will take place here beginning tomorrow, February 19th. It will last until Saturday. You'll play games tomorrow, Friday, and all day Saturday here in Douglas. This is a project taken on by Coffee head coach Scott Grove in his second year. He came out of the Orlando area, won over 500 games, a really good coach. done a good job in a very short period of time with the Trojans, and Coffee's going to be really good this year. The Trojans are pretty solid. But the 3-day tournament will feature 6 teams, 3 from Georgia and 3 from Florida, all who made the playoffs last year. So these are postseason caliber teams that are going to be here in Douglas. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be high energy all the way through. The teams from Georgia are, of course, Coffee High, Mountain View High School. They were 15 and 17 last year. They are a 6A program and made a playoff appearance. Peachtree Ridge, they were 16 and 16. They're also a 6A program who made the playoffs. Florida teams, Foundation Academy, 19 and 10. They're a 2A team out of Florida. Their head coach is Dakota Grove. That would be the son of head coach Scott Grove. They have played each other twice in the past. They are 1-1. So in addition to Georgia against Florida, you've also got father against son. And so that ought to be a no-holds-barred contest. And that's the first game tomorrow at 6:30, Coffee versus Foundation Academy. You got Timber Creek High School, 19 and 11 last year. They're a 7A team. They made the playoffs. And then you have University Christian, 21 and 11 last year. They're a single A team. And they made the region finals last year. University Christian is where former Coffee High football coach Robbie Pruitt had a tremendous amount of success when he was in Florida. So that has a little bit of a semi-local connection to Coffee County. So the games begin tomorrow at 3:30, Mountain View versus Timber Creek. Then at 6:30, Coffee plays Foundation Academy again. That's Coach Grove versus his son, the other Coach Grove. Then on Friday at 3:30, Peachtree Ridge takes on University Christian, and at 6:30, Coffee takes on Timber Creek. Saturday, beginning at 9 in the morning, Peachtree Ridge versus Timber Creek. 11:30, Peachtree Ridge versus Foundation Academy. 2 p.m., Mountain View against Foundation Academy. 4:30, Mountain View versus University Christian, and then at 7 p.m., Coffee versus University Christian. So that's a really neat thing that's coming to Douglas. Going to be a lot of baseball played, a lot of really good teams. A lot of folks from all over both states will be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are a sports fan, if you're a baseball fan, Charles A. Wilson Field in Douglas is going to be the place to be this weekend. You also have some college baseball going on at South Georgia State this weekend. So if you want to see baseball, you will have plenty of opportunities here to do so. They got a food truck out at the high school. The high school game's really good way to spend a weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Now, as if that's not enough, we also have basketball going on. Now, the Trojans state finals opponents have not been set yet. We were actually a little bit ahead of the rest of the teams in the state, so we finished up about a week early. So it's going to be a little bit later on, really this weekend, when we're going to the rest of the teams are playing, when we're going to find out exactly who our opponents will be in the first round. CCA will play this weekend in the state finals as well. The girls will play at 1:30 on Friday in Macon at Tatnall Square. And then the boys will play at 1:30 on Saturday, also at Tatnall Square. Now, both teams got first round byes. First round games were played last night and tonight. CCA made the top 4. When you make the top 4, then you get a first round bye. Now, what's interesting is that they don't do, GIA does not do the region playoffs the way that we do them. All right. And we're going to a similar format next year, the GHSA is. But what they do is they do a power rankings, and they base the power rankings off of the max prep system. Now, what is interesting, and this has caused an enormous uproar in the GIAA circles, is that the CCA boys lost to Robert Toombs twice this season. But the power rankings have CCA ranked ahead of Robert Toombs by a small margin. So if head-to-head competition was factored in more heavily, CCA really should be number 5 and Robert Toombs should be number 4. But the way the Max Preps rankings have it, CCA number 4, Robert Toombs number 5. Now that has some significant playoff implications. One, we get a bye, and 2, we're in a pretty good bracket. And the boys have a really good shot to make a deep run through the playoffs, and the girls do too. Both teams are in a pretty good spot. CCA girls are going to play David Emmanuel at 1:30, and then the boys are going to play St. George's. They're a number 6 seed, and DEA is also a number 6. So yeah, that's the way the playoffs are going to go for CCA. That will take place again on Friday for the girls, on Saturday for the boys, and we are hoping that that they can make a deep run. Remember last year the CCA boys played for a state championship. They finished as runner-up, but they did make the finals. Now, let's get to Miss Crawford here. She's been on your screen for quite a while, but the Coffee High track team opened its season at the Santa Fe High School Raider Open Classic. That's down in Alachua, Florida. And they set 56 new personal records and 1 new school record. The 1 school record came from Miss Crawford. She finished second in 2 events and set a new school record in the 800-meter run with a time of 2 minutes, 22.73 seconds. She broke the previous record of 2 minutes, 25.18 seconds set by Abby Arnett in April of 2018. So a pretty long-standing record that Inslee broke. And she has been putting up some pretty solid performances throughout her career ever since she was a freshman. She's a really good runner, really good distance runner. We had a pretty good story about how the rest of the team did, and there are a lot of runners, a lot of field athletes, a lot of events. We're not going to go through all of those. It's all in the story on DouglasNow.com. Take a look at it. We've got that, and we've got more pictures set up. But anytime you break a record, it is significant. And what's probably going to happen is she's going to break her own record again as we move through the season. And there's some other records that are likely to fall as well. And I was thinking about this. We've lost. We've broken a lot of school records in track in the last few years. Track and cross country and the distance running, that kind of thing. Not so much in sprinting. I think the last time a sprint record was broken was maybe in 2021, and it was on the girls' side. Now, to be fair, don't know if a boys' sprint record, particularly in the 100 or 200, is going to be broken for a long time, right? Because those records belong to Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek was a generational talent, a world-class talent. And it's going to be difficult for any of those records to fall. So I think Tyreek's records are safe for a while. But we've had a lot of distance records broken over the last few years. And, I love endurance sports. I love it. I love sports, track, cross country, golf, tennis, those kinds of sports, because the times are there. All right. The athletes are not subject to the whims and try not to use a word that has a negative connotation here, but it's not as subjective as other sports where, there are not quite as many metrics, firm, hard, fast metrics to look at. Listen, in golf, if your score is going to count, if you're going to be on that travel squad, then you've got a score to prove it. All right. If you score, you're going to be there. All right. It's not that, well, coach likes this and he thinks so-and-so's faster, or, anything like that. No, here are the scores. You made it or you didn't. In tennis, if you don't like where you are on the ladder, where you are ranking, or where you're ranked, then, you challenge the person in front of you. If you win, you move into that spot. If you don't, well, you don't. So you earn it. All right. And with running, track, cross country, those kinds of sports, same type of thing. All right. You want to be one of the top runners? Well, you've got to put in a top time. all right, or in the field the field events, throwing, jumping, what have you. It's pretty easy to evaluate talent, all right? And I like that. I like that a lot. It is, those sports are the ultimate meritocracies, right? You've got to perform, and those numbers are there. And I really like that. So this is a fun time of the year for me. I really enjoy it. And golf, goodness gracious. I think golf is one of the hardest sports to play. They're all hard to play at a high level, but golf, there's probably a bigger gap between the average, recreational golfer, even local champion type golfer, local elite level golfer, and professional golfer than there is in any other sport. Now, that's not always a fair comparison to make because, right, you don't have 30-year-old football players playing weekend leagues, really. You might have in big cities some men's baseball leagues, but, you don't have anybody playing in those types of leagues who can really compete at an elite level, right? But you have some really good golfers, particularly in big cities, at the local level who are area champions and region champions. But the gap between them and a PGA pro is pretty significant. Even a bad PGA pro is really significant. I have a tremendous appreciation for the game of golf, for what golfers do and what it takes to perform in that sport under that kind of pressure, all right? Because listen, if you've never stood over a 6-foot putt that you had to make, for a $5 bet on that hole, I mean, it's rough. It's rough. And I can't imagine what those guys do when they have major championships on the line or tournament wins on the line. It's incredible. It really is. It's amazing. So anyway, this is a fun time of the year. There are a lot of good sports going on, and we're going to cover them. We're going to be there as best as we can, and we're going to try to give these kids the attention and the recognition that they deserve. Clear night here in Douglas and Coffee County. We're going to take a look at our tower cam as we always do. We're trying to do some different things with our cameras. We're talking about maybe putting some cameras up in different locations where we can check in, and of course, I mean, I don't want any bad weather to come. What I was really hoping we would have, and maybe this is past us now. We're getting into late February. Okay, so we're kind of getting out of some of the nastiness. We're still going to have some crazy weather, but maybe most of the bad stuff is behind us. But I really wanted to have a tower cam, a view of snow, of some snow falling, and we didn't get it. So going to have to wait till next year, I believe. I hope. I don't want any snow to fall now. I want to get this mess behind us. It's been some beautiful weather the last couple of days. Had somebody send me a picture of a snake today. I also had somebody send me a picture of a turtle. So the reptiles are starting to get out and move, and you know how I feel about that. That is indeed my favorite time of the year. So as turtles move, listen, everybody be careful. Don't run over turtles. Take a look at it. Take a look when you're driving. If you see something that doesn't belong in the road, don't run over it. You don't necessarily have to get out and try to move them across the road. That's dangerous, but don't run them over, right? Don't do that. Please. I don't like to see turtles. I don't like to see turtles get run over at all, and they're about to be moving. So as always, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had a very sports heavy discussion here tonight. That hopefully will not be the case. It's been a little bit slow from a news standpoint. All right. We hadn't had a lot going on, hadn't had quite as much happening as we have in the past. In a few weeks, the political season is going to pick up. We got qualifying coming up. We got some local races. We got some state races, and we got some local people in some state races. So the governor's election, man, listen, if you're not following what's happening on the Republican side of the governor's race, it is heating up big time. And there's going to be some absolute intrigue with with what's going on there. It is absolutely phenomenal. And I was talking to a cousin of mine who's up in Atlanta, and we were talking a little bit about the governor about the governor's race, and Rick Jackson has completely disrupted the Republican governor's election. Now, Burt Jones, I think, still has the advantage, but you've got three extremely wealthy people who are slugging it out for this office. Of course, you've got Burt Jones. I don't think anybody in the race is richer than Rick Jackson, but Brad Raffensperger is pretty well heeled too. All right. And you're probably looking at a minimum of $20 million to win that election. Now, Jackson has pledged $50 million of his own money. So just imagine that for a minute, that you've got $50 million of your own money to put into an election like this. 50 million, and not hurt. And it doesn't hurt you to lose $50 million. And if you win, and you're never getting it back, the governor doesn't make that much money. The governor makes less than $200,000 a year. So, you're not going to make $1 million in salary as the governor, but you're willing to put $50 million in to get back, $1 million, less than $1 million. You go on the speaking tour, you can make a little bit more, but I think about that. And it's scary that the governor's election or the governor's seat is worth that much money, that you're willing to put in $50 million of your own money. Now, Burt Jones has already, it's his family's trust or his dad or something, but, the Jones family has loaned his campaign $10 million. I think it is. The amount of money that it takes to win an election like that, and then what do you get in return? Do you want to be governor that bad? And is it worth it? It's scary. It's scary. And you're not going to raise that much money. You're going to have to put some of your own money in. So that automatically disqualifies most of the population from even thinking about running for governor. All right. But I can tell you this, that the Jackson campaign is a PR machine. And they've picked Douglas Now up. So I get their press releases. I get a little bit of stuff from Raffensperger, but not much. And I get a little bit from the Jones campaign. But I get inundated on a weekly basis with stuff from the Jackson campaign since he jumped in this race. So, and Jackson is not a very good speaker. Right? Neither is Burt Jones. Now, I've not really heard Jackson speak, but talking to people who have, he's not great on the stump, right? But neither is Burt Jones. Burt's a nice guy. I had the opportunity to meet him and talk to him a few months ago. I enjoyed my conversation with him, but certainly not an eloquent orator. I've heard Brad Raffensperger speak. I've met him before. Raffensperger's impressive, right? But when you're looking, the MAGA crowd is going to go with either Jones or Jackson. They will not go with Raffensperger because Raffensperger and the president do not get along. So anyway, what's going to happen is probably going to end up Jackson and Jones in a runoff. There'll be a runoff. But my Lord. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff to talk about as we get on into March and qualifying in the campaign. The campaigns move on, and we will be there covering that as well. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight at this late hour. I do appreciate it. And of course, we will be back for another edition of Douglas Now live later on this week. And if there's any breaking news between now and our next scheduled appointment, we will be here as well. All right. Y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.